This is the second video for the fifth class of social psychological perspectives on health. In the first video, I talked about how social status is related to our health, and then that is true even for monkeys. When social status is particularly related to our health, it is when the status is unstable, meaning that sometimes low status individuals can climb up the ladder of the social rank, and social status is related to our health when individuals do not have enough social support to fight against the inequality. Another factor is a lack of predictability. So when individuals can predict what would happen next, they tend to experience less stress. However, predictability is related to social status. Higher social status individuals tend to have more predictability. So low status individuals tend to experience more stress because they cannot predict what would happen in a few moments later. So I mainly talked how social status is related to stress among monkeys. And now I turn to human studies. The human biological model, okay, here. The biopsychosocial model of challenge and threat. So according to this model, people are more likely to experience threat when the demands of the situation they face outweigh the resources that they bring to the situation to deal with these demands. So basically, when they experience a threat, they would experience more stress. But if they can perceive the same situation as a challenge, they tend to experience less stress. And when they perceive a situation as threat, and when they perceive the same situation as a challenge, that is when uh, that depends on how much demand and resource how much demand a situation asks for, and how much resource individual has. Okay, so the example is imagine a situation where you need to give a presentation, and giving a presentation could be more threatening when the audience is tough instead of friendly or encouraging. So how tough the audience is about how demanding the situation is. And giving a presentation is more threatening when the time for preparation is limited. So the time for preparation reflects the resource you have. So if you have more time, you say you have enough resource to counter the demand, to satisfy the demand. Okay. So when the situation is tough, when the audience is tough, and if you don't have enough time, then you say that giving a presentation is threatening. Okay. But in a contrasting situation where the audience is friendly and you have enough time to prepare for it, then even if the presentation is important and difficult, you may feel being challenged instead of being threatened. You may perceive the situation as a challenge. So then you would feel less stress from giving a presentation. And there are physiological or biological studies showing that threat is related to higher blood pressure, slower heart rate recovery, which both are related to the health condition. Okay. And there is one example of a study showing how status affects our health in a minimal group paradigm. So let me explain how the experiment went. So in this study, participants would be measured their blood pressure. Okay. So there are two times that blood pressure was measured. So first, they are randomly divided into two groups, and then participants are told in which group they belong to which group they belong. One group is high status group, and the other group is low status group. So maybe participants, depending on which group they belong, participants may have different power or control in terms of what they can do in their group. And so when they were told about their statuses, their blood pressures are measured. Blood pressure was measured. And what the study found was that low status group already had higher blood pressure because participants were randomly assigned either high or low status groups. Their original health condition should be identical. But just because they know that they are now assigned to a low status group, they already have high blood pressure, meaning that they are feeling threatened or feeling stress. Okay? The second time blood pressure was measured was when participants were told that they are going to engage in tasks that define their statuses. So although participants were told that they are in high or low status groups, they were now told that there is actually a task that will define your status again. And depending on the performance of the task, your groups will be either considered as low or high status groups. Okay, so and this is when the blood pressure is again measured. So these red lines indicate when blood pressure was measured. So when the status manipulation was introduced, participants they were measured their blood pressure. And also when the task was introduced to participants, their blood pressure was again measured. And what they found was that instead of low status group members, now high status groups, now the high status group had higher blood pressure. And this is because high status group members now perceive that the situation or their status is unstable and they may lose their status because of the poor performance on the task. So now they are threatened by a possibility that they would lose their status. Okay? So unstable status of high status group and tasks being perceived as so for unstable sorry for high status group members, unstable status and the task itself was perceived as a threat. But for low status group, task was perceived as a challenge where they can improve their status. So they show lower blood pressure compared to those in the high status group. So these results are pretty consistent with what we have seen in the animal study, right? When the status was unstable, even dominant status monkeys experienced more pressure, more stress. And that is true for human beings. Okay. So status health relationship is influenced by social context, like how status can be stable or unstable. And then social status health relationship is also influenced by experienced and anticipated intergroup relationships. So on what standing their group is now influences their health, and also how the standing of their group will be influence their health as well. And this is again related to predictability of the environment, control, how much control they have, and how much social support they may have. These factors are related to our health. So if they cannot really predict, or if they cannot be assured that their high status will continue, then predictability goes down and their health will be also worsened. And if they feel that they may lose their control, they experience more stress. And if they do not have social support, then they would experience stress as well. Okay. I haven't really talked about social support for human individuals, but I think I will touch on that later. Okay, so that was basically physiological model because we are mainly looking at the blood pressure. And here is a sociological and then epidemiological models. This model argues that a health gradient may reflect not only social status, but different lifestyles, cultures, knowledge, or family structures. And they argue that, okay, maybe social status is related to health gradient, but it's not the cause of health gradient. But they argue that maybe different people from different social statuses have different lifestyles, which may be good or bad for their health. Well, they may have different cultures, knowledge that help them to be healthier, or make them unhealthy, or they may have different family structures that negatively impact their health. Okay. However, the study with public servants showed that the higher their employment grade, the longer employee lived. So again, there is a health gradient even among public servants. And you may know that you may note that these participants are employed, not poor, and had comparable social background, meaning that they have similar lifestyles and they share a same culture and they should have equal knowledge in terms of healthy behaviors. And then their family structures should not be so varied that to the extent that influence their health. So even though they have similar lifestyles, culture, and origin, family structures, still because of a difference in social status, there is a health gradient. And interestingly, even after controlling for health behaviors such as obesity, smoking, reduced leisure time, physical activity, illness, and blood pressure, a health gradient was observed. In other words, the differences in these elements, like obesity, smoking, and so on, were not responsible for a health gradient. And health gradient was still there uh, according to their social status. So, right. A natural question is, why is there a health gradient? So the same author, Marmot, suggested that low predictability and control was associated with low status people. And this explanation is same for animal studies reviewed above. We have seen that when monkeys have low predictability of their future or their environment, and when they do not have control over their behaviors, then they experience poor health. And Mama is arguing that that's same for human beings. Another factor that may cause a health gradient is a lack of social support. A different research group argues that low status people do not have as much social capital as high status group people do. So that's why there is a health gradient. Definition of social capital is networks together with shared norms, values, and understandings that facilitate cooperation within or among groups. And the way the social capital is measured is how much each individual trusts others, and then how many ties they have, or how many connections they have with people they know, like with their families or friends, maybe coworkers if you consider them as your friends. So social capital is higher when individuals trust each other and are tied and have frequent interactions. Okay, sorry. So there are two kinds of social capitals. One is bonding, and the other one is bridging capital. Bonding capital reflects trust and social cohesion, uh, interaction and close ties between individuals. And then this is actually similar to shared social identity. So when you say you have a bonding capital, you have a lot of interaction and close ties with other people, and then you indeed trust them. So when you have a shared social identity, then you are likely to have more interactions and close ties with them, and you tend to trust them. So in that sense, bonding capital and shared social identity is similar, are similar. And high bonding capital is necessary for developing bridging capital. Bridging capital is the ability of an individual to take on new group memberships and or the ability to maintain their memberships in important groups. So more bonding capital leads to more bonding and bridging capital. So I think example help you to understand better. Say each friend has two friends of his or her, and the person A, who has only one friend, can reach to two additional people, friends, friend. And person B, who has three friends, can reach to six. Okay, these six, no? And these researchers argue that low status people tend to have less bonding and bridging capital. And then because they do not have enough social capital, that leads them to relatively poor health compared to high status people who tend to have more bonding and bridging capital. So just to recap what I have said, person A, this one is person A, and if person A has only one friend, this means that this person's bridging capital is 2. So because he or she can only lead to additional 2 individuals. But person B, who already has 3 friends, this is the number of friends they have, is a bonding capital. And then these 3 friends help person B to lead to 6 additional individuals. This is person B's bridging capital. Okay. And there may be different reasons why a particular individual has more bonding and bridging capital. But these researchers basically argue that low status group or low social rank people tend to have less bonding and bridging capital. That may be because they do not have enough financial resources to keep their interpersonal connection with others, or maybe they do not have enough leisure time to maintain their capital. The basic point here is that low status people do not have much social capital, and then a lack of social capital is related to poor health. Okay. So note, but you may want to note that social capital has been criticized for the looseness and broadness of the concept. So social capital has been defined in many different ways, and because they are defined in many different ways, it's being criticized for the weakness of the concept to explain some phenomena like a health gradient. Nonetheless, while the biomedical approach has focused on behaviors that individuals should engage in to improve their health, research on social determinants like this one, like the one focusing on social status or social capital, has led us to focus more on the ways in which individuals' social environment needs to be improved. In this sense, social determinants of health seems to have commonalities with the social identity approach. So both social determinants of health. By the way, social determinants of health, maybe I talked about it in the first lecture, but social determinants of health is an approach that social factors like social status influences our health. Okay? And social determinants of health and social identity uh, recommend or claim that not only individuals need to change, but society needs to change. Okay, so uh, biomedical approach or traditional psychological approach may argue how individuals should behave or change so that they can be healthier. But social determinants of health and as well as social identity approach argue that yes, people could change so that they can become healthier, but the uh, health of individuals is not solely caused by each individual's behavior, but instead, health of individuals can be strongly influenced by social factors like which group they belong. In that sense, uh, society also needs to make an effort so that each individual can enjoy their good health. Okay? So I will talk more about how social status is related to our health and then how we can understand such link through social identity approach. Okay, so I think I will stop here for today's class. Thank you very much.